Well, I've already pretty much completely given up on baseball, so there's that.
Yeah, well, because our team fucking sucks.
Well, there's that issue. Who do you think gets traded first, Ohtani or Soto?
It would not surprise me if Ohtani goes first. Just like we're gonna wake up randomly like on Friday, and it's gonna be like he was dealt.
Or it's like a Colts moving to Indianapolis type deal where it's just in
Yeah,
the
in the
middle of
middle of
the
the night.
night and it's
But if they trade Ohtani, then they got to get rid of Trout too. Like they got to go into
do they
full
really
rebuild.
have to get rid of Trout?
I think they can't win with this roster. Like I
I
don't know what's
agree.
going
I
on.
agree. I'm just saying I don't know if you have to get rid of Trout when he's in the middle of that 14-year deal.
I mean, he's gonna eventually have to say I want to win.
I would think so too, but he's also one of those guys. He's kind of like he's in the Damian Lillard situation of baseball, where he's like, dude, you're really gonna stay here and just rot away the rest of your career? Like,
Yeah, but at least Dame's made the playoffs a bunch of times.
fair. That's a good point. All right, good open for the podcast as we got people engaged now. All right. Black and Blue Pod, the podcast where we all talk shit and bruise each other's egos, bruise some athletes' egos if they ever listen to this stupid show. Don't know why they would. I'm your host, Matt McLaughlin, alongside Timmy Gorman, and we've got a packed show today, so we're just going to jump right into it. Sixers, two big announcements this past week since we've kind of been off the air. The Philadelphia 76ers announced a new arena that's scheduled to be built by the 2031 to 2032 season, right around the corner. It's going to be anchored in Center City, and it's kind of sandwiched in between Independence Hall and City Hall. And I know that's a terrible description for my audio listeners, but just look up the image.
Marquee Station. Essentially, it'll be like where the Marquee Station Mall is.
Correct. That's a much better description. So we'll just do this because this will be like pretty quick and easy. I don't get why people are complaining about this. This is good. This is good in my opinion. I want Philadelphia to be like a Chicago or a Cleveland where you can actually go into the city to go to the games and walk around and kind of get a neighborhood city vibe to it. Like that's one thing when I went to Wrigley. Granted, this was 7 years ago, which I feel like an old man saying it was 7 years ago. Wrigley has a really cool setup, or had a really cool setup before Tom Ricketts just jacked all of it up, where it's just a cool neighborhood that you can walk around in. Fenway, similar idea, where you got bars and taverns and pubs that you can grab a bite to eat, then just walk across the street and do a baseball game. And I want Philly to have a similar type vibe in the city itself. And for people that are complaining, Wells Fargo Center has probably some of the worst parking I've ever experienced in my life. And who is tailgating a basketball game? Like who? When is the last time you've gone with your buddies and said, hey, we're going to tailgate a Sixers game? That just doesn't happen. And I don't and it's all privately funded. So it's not like a Stan Kroenke situation where he just jacks up the bill to $6 billion and says, hey, you pay for it. It's like, wait, what?
Are you just trying to get me angry every week now by mentioning his name?
It kind of is. It's going to turn into a running gag. I'm going to figure out some way. Until my eye starts
twitching, like he's spending money. We're at 150 this summer, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and he's crying every dime that he hands over.
Fuck me better.
But yeah, I don't get why people hate this. It's like the Sixers, and especially wherever that franchise is going to be at some point, most likely the post-Joel Embiid era, most likely, hopefully, dear God, we're not paying James Harden in a Bobby Bonilla type situation by that point. Tyrese Maxey will be in his prime or towards the tail end of his prime. So that'll be worth watching.
Well, what, they said 31, 32?
Yeah. So
and he's what, 20, 21 now?
I think he's 20 going on 21 right now. So he'll be 28, 29 around then. Assuming all construction goes well, which is also a big if for a lot of these type situations. But this is exciting. Like Center City should be revived. City should be a place.
This is more old city than anything. It's like it's in the middle. It's like where they're talking, like it's like that'll probably be like ninth, I guess
the
like
fucking
10th Street.
technicality, Timmy. All right, let's the city of Philadelphia should be a
It'll
spot.
it'll be right in between center and Old City, but it's the perfect. The whole reason for it is that it's the perfect spot. The reason they want it there is for all the restaurants, and then there's like the nightlife where you can either go one way to like the more mature kind of stuff, or the other way for Old City, which is still like, I mean, there's both college bars in both ends, but like, you know, and obviously that's
family
changed a lot.
friendly like
Right.
restaurants, like
There's
an
plenty of family
Applebee's.
friendly things, stuff of that nature. Um, the problem, so I agree with you that it's weird because you go to a lot of these other cities and like everything's more downtown and they're near stuff. The reason they're in this situation is because they just didn't want to pay the people they needed to pay in order to get the leases they needed to get. Xfinity Live was supposed to be a million times bigger. It was supposed to be this huge shopping mall with stores and restaurants and bars and everything. It was supposed to take up all this land. And the Sixers and the rest of the organization, not the Sixers, like all four of them, and the owners just didn't want to pay people they needed to pay in South Philly. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not just going to say it, but everyone gets an idea who's controlling the land down there. And they just didn't want to pay them to get the Teamsters on side to build this giant mega mall that they were supposed to build to have the attractions. I personally love having all of the like, I love that we have a sports complex, but I agree in that it needs something so people don't just immediately want to get on a train and go home. Like, because no one goes to Xfinity Live unless you're like a frat boy, Choi boy that just wants to go in there, get drunk and start fights, you know?
Yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
it's like you're not taking like your family in there. That's essentially what it is. Since day one, no one has ever linked Xfinity Live for what it is. You know not to go in there after like dark. Like, it's just always fights and shit going on. It's just dumbness. So it's supposed to be so much bigger, but they didn't want to pay off the people they needed to pay off to get the permits and all that. And I don't know what they think is going to happen now when they go to Market East, because now they're just stepping on somebody else's toes, because Market East is in between Center City and Old City, and right there is Chinatown. And like, they're going to have to grease some palms, and I just don't know if they understand that yet. And now it's smart for them to come out and say private equity. And like I said, I agree. It'd be cool to have a nightlife, but you could also run afoul and run into the same issue that like the Wizards have. And like, I don't know if you in the Capitals, if you've ever been down to DC and seen what used to be Verizon Center. It is literally just in the middle of a block. It's like row home, or like it's like business building, boom, Verizon Center, business. It's this giant arena just like stuck in between like housing and businesses. And I remember being down there in 2013. I'm walking out of I was at dinner, and we're walking out of the with Steph, and we're walking out of the restaurant. Like, what the fuck are all these people wearing red for? Like, what the fuck's going on? And then I stop and I look, and I'm like, oh, they're Capitals fans. And then they get to the corner and they turn right, and I'm like, are you shitting me? That's where their arena is? Like, and it's not in a great neighborhood. If anybody I ever knew that lives down there talks about how it's just, there's just constantly outside, you just have like people, prostitutes soliciting sex and just drug deals and all this. It just gets real sketchy. And the Sixers could run afoul by doing that. And I just think that either way, they're going to have to grease some palms. I think it'd be better if they grease some palms down where it is and just make the whole sports complex more entertaining. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they want to branch out on their own. And I think this is where it's going to inevitably end up. You know what I mean?
And yeah. And this has happened before where the Phillies tried to, before Citizens Bank got built, they were trying to get a new field in the city. I think it was right behind Roman Catholic. My dad has told me this story a bunch.
Yeah, that makes sense because there's so much land. It's now developed there.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
But for the Sixers, this is still an NBA team that is worth billions and billions of dollars. And they'll figure something out to get it directly in the city, because I think it's a different situation when you're talking about paying other people to get permits or leases in something that's out of the way. Sure, it's considered South Philly, but it's very much out of the way compared to the heart of the city. And I think that'll be much easier to rationalize paying these payments for building permits and leases and getting all these inspectors and contractors and shit like that, when you say, hey, we're going to be directly in Philadelphia, you're going to be able to take the train and go see a game and not necessarily worry about commuting and stuff like that. Now, people do that and have to struggle with parking, sure, but for me, I'm like,
well, you know
I'd
what they're
rather
trying
take
to
a train.
do, right? They're basically trying to make it like Madison Square Garden, where the train just drops you right off there.
Yeah, and
That's essentially what it is.
my brother did make a good point. He was like, look at Madison Square Garden. That's a shit show down there. Like, do you really want that in Philly? And I was like, well, I got a good point.
I mean, and you also have to think of like, but they have to be smart about it too, because look at, and I know it's not a major sport, but look at the Union. They were in such a hurry to get land and build it somewhere, not think smartly, and they put this beautiful stadium in the worst possible, one of the worst possible fucking parts they could put it, and no one wants to go there because you're just afraid of getting like carjacked. Even the people that work there, I know a couple people that used to work for the Union, they just talk about it. It's just like, yeah, we used to have to have, HR meetings where they're like, if you see somebody break down on the side of the road that isn't a coworker or someone do not get over to help them, because it is a setup, and then you will get carjacked, your car will get stolen, and you'll be stuck in the middle of Chester, and something worse could happen to you. And it's just
lovely
like,
for Union people.
yeah, and it's just like they could have waited and put that stadium somewhere else, but they didn't, and they were in such a hurry.
Yeah, there's such a huge rush, but
that's what happens.
Yeah, and this is still a decade from now, and
a lot of things will change between now and then.
Exactly. But bigger news with the Sixers. James Harden has officially re-signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. Two-year deal, $68.6 million contract. The second year is a player option for about $35 million. So takes a massive pay cut in order to supposedly help the Sixers gain more cap flexibility, which they used to finalize the PJ Tucker signing. And so Harden comes back on a pretty decent deal, but it still opens the door that he looks for a massive payday in 2024 or 2025 that summer. And you're like, if I'm Daryl Morey, I am praying to whatever God I need to pray to in order to win a title within these next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing I need is on that player option, Harden wins a title with Joel Embiid, and then he's like, all right, yeah, fork up 5 years and $300 million while I'm 38 years old. Like, that is the worst option possible. But for the time being, this is great. Gives the Sixers cap flexibility, and Harden is on a decent salary compared to what he would have made at 47 this upcoming season. And he was going to get 60 or trying to get 60 when he's in his 38, 39 years. So overall, I'm impressed. I didn't think the Sixers would be able to get this done, and they did it. So I'm happy. Praise be. There is a God out there somewhere. Thank you. Now just keep Joel Embiid healthy, and maybe we can make a run at this fucking thing. But anyway, what do you think?
I think I'm just so happy because we talked about it, and I think every single real Sixers fan had that feeling in their gut, like there was just like an upset stomach. It's like, we're gonna fucking give him too much money. We're gonna be stuck with him. But now he's only got 2 years, and he's got 2 years as a prove it to get one last payday. And if that doesn't motivate him, then is it one and an option, or how's it work?
It's one an option, and then he hits unrestricted free agency.
It's his option or our option?
Player option. That's yeah.
All right. Well, so he's taking. So it's 2 years, and and so we'll know with how he shows up in camp and all that, and see if he's ready to play. I mean, there have been positive signs over the summer. There was, there's Memorial Day, I think it was, or 4th of July pictures where they were all hanging out together up in what's it called?
With
the
Rachel
Hamptons.
Nichols? Are those the pics that you're referring to?
No, like when the whole team was up in the Hamptons.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's always a good sign that they're bonding.
I just think being in a stable situation has helped them out so much tremendously, just from a mental approach to the game, where he's motivated to get in shape and be there for a guy like Embiid. When he was in Brooklyn, I kind of understand him for being like, yo, KD, Kyrie's a basket case. This is not what you told me this was going to be at all. I got to play on one leg pretty much against Giannis. And for Harden, like, sure, people want to bring up he's quit on however many organizations in the past few years, but the Brooklyn thing is kind of understandable. Like, I don't necessarily blame him for that. And there were positive signs towards the end of his run with Brooklyn where he was actually being the what the fuck? All right, technical difficulties. That was weird.
I pulled my headphone out, and I've done that before, and it's never done that.
I think it's my Wi-Fi. I think that's what it is.
Oh.
But anyway, as I was saying, technical difficulties aside,
Brooklyn.
Harden showed that he was being a leader in the locker room and on the floor. And if he can do that with a teammate in Joel Embiid who is so desperate to win, and a guy in Tyrese Maxey that he can mentor, we've kind of talked about this as the offseason first open, that with all those ingredients, I think he's more motivated than ever to be the best player that he can be at this stage in his career. And maybe he needs the motivation for a payday and a title and to just shove it up every analyst's ass that said he's not the guy that he used to be and he can't win and he's just an empty stats guy.
I know and I'm just so happy that Daryl didn't cave and give his boy what we all thought he was going to give him. And so now we'll know if he doesn't come back ready and in shape and looking like the James Harden of old and wanting to be a team player and realize that he has to perform without the ball in his hands. I think we'll know by December. We really will. I think it'll take us that, got to give it a month or so, but I think we'll know by December whether or not like we have a shot. And, if he's not there, then I don't know, maybe they look to offload him somewhere to someone who wants to take him and we just kind of, see what goes on. Do you still think there's some sort of trade coming
with Harden?
Do you think with the Sixers? Like, do you think they're going to try and offload Harris at all, or what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely do think that it's just right now is the worst time to make a trade with it being the dead of summer. No one has really seen anything of any player really. And I think that's why teams are hesitant to make a move for Kevin Durant because they don't know how healthy he is going into this season. And granted, still Kevin Durant, still top 10 scorer all time, but teams are less willing to take a gamble. Whereas I think we'll hear those Woj rumors and those Shams rumors October, November, December, once the season kind of gets into full gear, especially if Tobias comes out of the first month or so of the season hot and a team that is contending or is trying to contend, say, I don't know, a Brooklyn or Toronto, or maybe out in the West, a team like Phoenix is trying to just find something that isn't clicking, then they'll be more desperate. And I think that's when you start seeing those rumors. And then maybe Matisse rebuilds his trade value up and shows some type of development in his offensive game. And then all of a sudden he becomes a high upside player that GMs want to take a chance on. And then that opens up his market because young teams like Toronto want to take a chance on him. Maybe OKC wants to get some size on the wing and just get someone with more muscle than a stick for a player on the court. So I think it's just kind of the weird time that we're in where we just haven't heard anything relative to the NBA calendar.
Yeah, it's that down period,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and we also we don't know what their plans are for Jaden Springer either. Like, is he going to get a shot to make the roster this year, or what?
And Isaiah Joe showed out in summer league this year and really showed some bright spots. I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Reed takes another step and really solidifies him as like a small ball backup center.
And then they got those signings. They got Daniil House, which I don't mind, and then they got the other kid like Trevelyan
Anthony Melton.
I keep forgetting about Melton. I'm actually really excited for him. I keep forgetting we got him. I'm actually really excited I'm really excited for that addition. Actually, I'm excited to see what he can do for us.
Yeah, so am I. I just don't want him to get lost in the shuffle.
No, And then
But
we
you
have
could
that
say that about a lot of people.
Trevlin Queen or whatever his name is.
Are you talking about the
Uh,
dude from Villanova, Javon Quinterly?
no,
Oh,
no,
I know exactly who you're talking about. Um
he's not on the roster, so I can't.
was he on the G League Ignite team?
He was no, he was like a Heat or a Houston guy, Trevlin something. Why
We'll
is it
find it.
listed Julian Champagny as somebody on our roster? That's so weird.
Don't know.
I think it's Trevlin Queen.
Okay. That's
He
right.
played at New Mexico
Queen.
State. He was he was the NBA G League Finals MVP and the NBA G League Most Valuable Player in 2022 for the Rio Grande Valley Vipers.
If he can give us a solid 8 points off the bench, happy with that. 8 points per
And
game, cool.
he was all defensive team as well.
Hey, I'll take it. Let's move on to the NFL because there's some big news.
Real
NFL
quick,
offseason. Yeah.
real quick. What are your thoughts on the Pistons bringing back the teal? I know we're gonna do a uniform
Oh,
podcast.
yeah. Well, the Pistons brought back the teal, and then there was another
The Jazz brought back the purple mountain
Jazz.
look from the
The
late
Jazz
90s.
somehow their uniforms get worse every single fucking year. I hate it.
It's so bad. Just
Um,
go back to the early 90s. Just go back to what you wore with Pistol Pete and then Stockton and Malone before you change to those ugly uniforms you're going to use as throwbacks this year.
I was gonna say Pistol Pete. Last time I checked was not the early '90s.
I mean, there was basically the
No,
same uniform.
yeah. No, I agree with you. No, there's another. Anyway, yeah, I like it. I would not be able to tolerate that jersey 82 games out of the year. I think it's good as a good throwback alternate. And
the Spurs.
Spurs, yes. And yeah, would I buy a Jaden Ivey version of that? I don't think so. I just don't think teal is in my repertoire at this point in my life. Maybe later on.
I don't love it. I never loved it when it was their color. I was actually very happy when they went back to the semi similar Isaiah look that they rocked during the Wallace brothers and Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton years.
Yeah.
I never got it. I was like, how do you go from red, white, blue to teal and black? And it was just, and I get that's what the 90s was all about. So yeah, it's cool to just rock every so often, but it doesn't really move me either way per se.
Yeah. No, I agree. What do you think about the Spurs?
I like it, but I wish that the panels, I wish that they incorporated the Aquafresh colors.
Oh, like are you talking about the Siesta ones?
Yeah, you know how like the Bucs have those pants that are like all the greens and creams.
Yeah.
I wish that they would have done the same with the Spurs one, where the side paneling had some accent colors to it. You know what I mean?
I'm just happy the Spurs did something with their fucking uniforms. Every 2K that I would buy from like 2K9 to 2K12 or to 2K20, it was the same fucking uniform. And the only unique one that they had was like the ugly camo ones from like their military night, which is a cool tradition.
Well, they're bringing back the Gervin era ones too, which I love.
Yeah, I'm happy
I love.
I'm happy they're bringing
great uniforms.
That's all I wanted from San Antonio was to spice up their uniforms, which they've done the past few years, but maybe something other than just a throwback to like the Siesta ones. But yeah,
the Siesta ones aren't bad. It's wish they had some color, but the Gervin throwbacks that have almost like kind of the MJ style pattern on the side of the downside of the pants, and I just think they're like we've always said this, and as people that are uniform junkies, that a clean look is all you need. It's the less is more kind of mentality, and that is perfect. Which is just saying San Antonio the number, and it's just all the way through. It's just very clean and classy, and for someone who's not a big fan of that organization or their uniforms per se, I really do like that look, and I don't mind the Siesta look that they have. I just wish that they would have done something. I wish they would have had color to make it's like if it's a Siesta or like the patterns are clearly like coming from like a Mexican heritage standpoint the way it is. why not give it those colors? Why not embrace it?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think they're just trying to do it in gradual steps and not
True.
completely go over the edge. And I like it when organizations kind of step outside the box and kind of go something a little funky and weird, like the Washington cherry blossom jerseys. Those are going to be fire.
Well, the Wizards are wearing the pink ones.
Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking. Yeah,
Oh, I
those are
thought
the
you were
ones
talking
I'm.
about the Nationals. Oh, right. They did it.
It's weird because it's like a joint effort together. Like it's like what? Okay, I guess.
And he doesn't own both teams, so
Yeah, it's weird, but so those I'm really excited about. I hope the Sixers do something different, and I hope that there are rumors that the AI jerseys are coming back, the blacks.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I wouldn't mind them depending on how they do them. I would like them to wear the AI rookie ones where it just says like that
The
version.
Sixers.
Yeah, but with not the modern template, like the old template. I would
Yeah,
like that.
the one he's holding up in the draft day photo.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I know
I
exactly
love
the ones
those.
that you're
I
talking.
love those uniforms, or even the Dr. J era ones, which are similar, but
Can't go wrong. The Sixers, you can't necessarily go wrong with most of their jerseys throughout the years. Like
I know I the black ones I liked, but I hated those blue ones they used to wear then. Like
yeah.
I was like, and then even when they finally went back to red, white, blue, it still was like,
Now it's kind of
like
become very generic, and now
I think it was
it's
more generic when they first went to it in the 2000 like 11,
tens.
12 season. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was much worse.
Now it's got more life and like we agreed like the one from the Spectrum ones from last year. I think they kind of grew on everyone. You know what I mean?
The
Stuff like
the
that.
best
So
ones, the best ones all time were 2017 to 18, the cream color with the Fila
yeah, they're
script,
great.
and oh,
The Don't Tread on Me.
I can still see JJ Redick taking catch and shoot threes off the right wing in those jerseys, and they're beautiful.
I
Dario
would
was still
love
on the team.
I would love the Iverson draft night ones. I think that would be great. That when he crossed, and then the same ones when he crossed over Jordan. Like, I think those would be great to rock.
For sure. All right, let's do NFL. Some big news. Kyler Murray lands a massive extension with the Arizona Cardinals. 5 years, $230.5 million up maximum value. So that's a maximum value the contract can give. But the guaranteed is $160 million. But the big headline this past weekend, and really the early part of this week, is the addendum, which I just learned this week, was that Kyler Murray has to watch 4 hours of film study per week during the season as the
That's it.
Yeah. So 4 hours per week. It's like mandatory film study on top of team meetings and game plan meetings and walkthroughs and everything else, which to us, it sounds like, okay, I could just do that in like one night, like to us. But I don't know. Do you think that people are overreacting?
I think it's a scary thing if you had to put that clause in there.
Yeah,
Like,
that's kind of
first
where
of
we're all
all,
leaning.
what has he won? I can tell you, as a guy who owned Kyler Murray in a fantasy football league last year, and I get it, it's completely different things. And I don't want to sound like one of those weird, douchebag. Oh, fuck him, he lost me. No, it's not that at all. It's just like I can tell, like, just like because I would try and watch him as much, and it's not even from the fantasy standpoint. It's from the standpoint that he's great for like 5 games out of the year, and then it's injuries and he falls off, and he starts throwing more interceptions and then touchdowns, and he gets scared, and he's eventually hurt by week 10, and he's never won a playoff game. The first time he made it was last year, and they got absolutely demolished by the Super Bowl chance, but still. And the fact that you had to put a clause in there, which is like some Michael Vick kind of shit before he got under Andy Reid's tutelage, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That they had to put that clause in there just proves that he was ill prepared and Kingsbury was letting him do whatever he wanted. And if I'm a fan of the Cardinals, I'd be like, shit, like what? Like Why is that mandatory? You should just be doing it. That's your job.
Well, and
know?
towards the tail end of the season, it was like Kyler Murray would be Coach K's worst nightmare when it came to body language, because Kyler Murray just like never got with his teammates on the bench. He never really rallied around. He never really rallied the guys.
He's a terrible leader.
Yeah, and part of that is the maturation process of learning your voice as a lot in the locker room and trying to step up as that guy. Maybe we'll see that this year now that he's got this contract and he's gotten a year older. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, obviously, but this was a team
don't you
that
think
started.
That's kind of childish, though? If it's like, oh, once I get my money, I'll be a leader. I mean, no, you should be a leader no matter what. Also, I love how Steve Keim took a shot at the A's. Like, oh, what we're paying him is like their entire payroll, isn't it all?
It's hilarious. If I was him, I would have done that. I would have totally
but it's like,
done
bro,
that.
win something first before you fucking talk shit. The A's at least been in the playoffs.
They did. They had their best franchise start in like 50 bajillion years last year. They came out of the gates 10-0.
And then they sucked. And then they sucked for the rest of the season. Got knocked out in the first round, but with an absolute ass kick into their rivals.
That's true, but at least they started out 10-0.
No, I get that, but the A's have been to the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's just funny. It's like, all right, like the A's never once like bitched about it. He's like, all right, we get it. You went, you signed. Just give us the money back, and we'll move on. Like, and for Steve Keim to like make that comment out of nowhere because one reporter asked, "Oh, would you ever go back to baseball?" Like, it's not like the A's said it. So I just thought that was fucking weird. It's like, bro, like you just gave a shit ton of money to a guy who's never won a playoff game. Let's calm down before you start taking snipe shots at other organizations.
Well, if there's any organization to take a snipe shot at, the Oakland Athletics have made themselves easy targets over the years.
Well, that's because Steven Schott's a terrible owner. But
that's a whole different podcast for another day. But for Arizona, this is a team that's clearly trying to win now, even though they do have a very young quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be suspended to start the season. And J.J. Watt's going to be coming back from, well, not necessarily coming back. It's kind of weird because he like came back from the injury towards the tail end of the season, but I guess he'll be fully rested for this upcoming season. And no one in this organization seems like they are just taking another year to develop. This is clearly a win now team. And Kyler's going to have to mature. He's going to have to grow a pair and actually step up and show that he can be the guy to take this organization over the top. And when you have questions about smaller quarterbacks, and really the only smaller quarterbacks that have succeeded in the NFL in recent memory are Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. Right. Off the top of my head, Baker Mayfield's already looking at getting really no other shot in the league if this Carolina situation doesn't work out. And with Kyler, he had very, very bad turnover issues during the season. And that comes with his play. He's very much like Russell Wilson, where he'll try and turn it into a backyard football game. And so if he doesn't have his wits about him and really doesn't have the leadership to keep the whole team engaged, and we saw this with Carson Wentz in Philly, you can play reckless, but you have to have the team behind you and support you and believe that you are the guy to take them over the top in each and every game. And so if Kyler can get that message through to Arizona and the rest of this team with how he plays, which he showed flashes last year, I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again. But in a division with the reigning Super Bowl champions, San Francisco is going to be looking to retool and reload for this upcoming season. We're going to get to San Francisco in this episode. I don't blame Arizona for handing him that contract, but he's really going to have to step up in these next few years to really show that this contract was worth it.
They had no choice.
Yeah.
It was, especially for the market they're in and everything like that. They had no choice. By the way, I said Steven Schott that years ago. Their owner now is John Fisher for the A's. So
good fact check on yourself. I'm proud of you.
I was like, wait a minute. Steven Schott's no longer the owner there. I got to check that for myself.
I don't think anyone's looked up who's the owner of the Oakland Athletics in years now. Don't touch your headphones.
I fucking keep getting an itch. Yeah, no. So, I think they were backed into a corner. They had no choice. It was commit, and they're gonna just see where it can go, and hopefully he gets the message. Like, dude, the whole world knows that like the whole sports world now knows that you clearly weren't taking film study smart enough. Like, and look at all the careers it's ruined by not doing that. Jamarcus Russell, Vic until he got a second chance, and obviously people thought, well, no, that was ruining his career until the dog thing came up. Because if it wasn't for the dog thing, then Vic probably never would have got his ego in check and probably never would have had a second life, which
Wasn't
is sad to
Randall?
say.
Wasn't Yeah, I know. Wasn't Randall Cunningham notorious for not studying as much as he should have, or no?
Yeah, I believe he's another one, but injuries really killed him more than anything. And
True,
then
that's
he
fair.
took a year off and stuff. But there's just countless players that just
Jim
look at
McMahon with
Johnny.
the 85 Bears.
Yeah, Johnny Manziel, like just plenty of
I think there were deeper issues with
quarterbacks.
Johnny Manziel than
Yeah,
film
but
study,
yeah, film study was definitely one of them.
for sure.
And it's not just quarterbacks, there's receivers, there's running backs. It's that's their homework and that's part of the job. And and you'll always hear it like, oh, first in, last out kind of thing. And not that you hear these things that Kyler's like this big partier or anything like that, but I could definitely see it where he just constantly thinks like, well, my athleticism is always going to win the day.
Yeah, and we kind of saw that towards the tail
And
end of the
well,
season.
now he's got to take it more seriously because he lost Christian Kirk, who, while obviously he doesn't light the world on fire, he was decent enough for him. He's got an aging AJ Green, an aging Zach Ertz. He doesn't have Nuke for the first 6 to 8 games, right?
I believe so. I believe
What
it's
did he test
6.
positive for? Steroids?
Well, I don't think the NFL ever really releases what he tests positive for. He said it was some type of it was some type of lotion or something. It was very strange. Yeah, so he's suspended for the first 6 games as of now, as of taping this. He could figure something out and knock that suspension down, but I don't think that's going to happen.
And then they got James Conner in the backfield for a second year, who I thought was great for them last year. And then who is their – didn't they sign another or draft another running back?
I'm looking at their depth chart. Oh, well, they traded for Marquise Brown.
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting they got Hollywood.
Zach Ertz is their tight end, however long he's got in that. I don't know. I'm not sold on Zach Ertz being the guy that he was for another 1-2 years, 3 years.
I think he has one solid year left in him, to be honest.
Yeah. I
He
don't
wasn't
think that's
bad when he went there
unreasonable.
last year.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable by any stretch of the imagination. But I think we're both kind of in agreement. Arizona didn't have much of a choice. Try and let the situation play out anyway. But you ready to move on to some of the other stuff that happened around the league?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Julio Jones going to Tampa Bay because God forbid Tom Brady doesn't have a weapon that he doesn't need. Julio going to Tampa Bay. ESPN's Adam Schefter announced earlier today on a 1-year deal with the Buccaneers, which, God damn it, can some team figure out a way to sign these guys so Tom Brady doesn't have them? Seriously? Hell, even if the Rams signed him somehow, some backdoor way where he makes $100K but gets $11 million in bonus, something, just so Tom Brady doesn't have him. But wasn't necessarily the guy that he was in Atlanta, in Tennessee this past season. Granted, he was injured. Tennessee was not a good fit for him, being opposite AJ Brown, and Tennessee is a team that relies heavily on the run game. That just wasn't a good fit. Maybe with Byron Leftwich, the greatest quarterback of all time, you've got Evans and Godwin to space the field even more. Is there a situation where Julio has a bounce back year, or is he just kind of ring chasing at this point?
I don't know. Well, when we said there's 3, and we said that there's they could go into any one of 3 categories where it's just it was there was that, the Trey Lance move. When was the third one we were talking about? That
Chris Carson.
It was most expected, most telling, and most unknown, and how it's going to wind out. And I think the most expected is or the most unknown most unknown is the Tampa Bay one, because either he's going to go there and he's going to be healthy and contribute, or it's just basically like Tampa Bay trying to fill in the cracks, saying we lost Antonio, we lost Gronk, Godwin's hurt for a certain amount of time, Evans always gets hurt for a couple games a year. We still don't have a grip on our running back room. And what are we going to do? So let's go sign another big name free agent and hope that Tom can gel with them, and see where it goes from there. So I can go one of two ways. I get why both sides do it, but is it necessarily a guarantee to succeed? No. I could see it blowing up. I could see it succeeding. I could see it being a mixed bag. So, either way, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think
of those three outcomes.
Yeah. I think the best outcome is he has the production level of Antonio Brown, but minus the headaches. Because
he's always been pretty quiet.
Yeah, Julio Jones has been pretty much since he's been in the league, at least I can think of, he's had no situations other than injuries that have really challenged his career, been a role model, hasn't been. Even when he was leaving Atlanta, it was a very quiet ordeal and everyone kind of understood why he was doing it. So if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm looking at Julio and saying, okay, here's a guy that, yes, he was injured, but his body has had plenty of time to rest and recover. We get him in our system with the GOAT and get him opposite. His
mystical hearing powers with Alex Rios or whatever the guy's name is.
Yeah, seriously. Reyes. The TB12 method. Get him some resistance bands. Get him one of those 80s moms tight outfits and like the neon when they do like home calisthenics. Get some ankle weights and a headband.
The Jane Fonda workouts.
Yes, the Jane Fonda workouts. And get him in a receiving room with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's only going to help those guys even more because they're going to be learning from one of the best receivers of the past generation. And use him sparingly, and he can still hit big plays down the field. It's just the Tom Brady factor makes me say I don't understand how this doesn't work out. Because with Antonio Brown, it was on Antonio Brown's fault for that situation not working out.
Yeah, he needs mental health. No, that's what I'm saying. It's all about staying healthy, but it's not like. This was Tom Brady 10 years ago. It'd be like, all right, that's one thing because he doesn't necessarily need the greatest receivers, but now he does need some help from the skill position guys. So as long as Evans is healthy and Scotty Miller's still there, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, Scotty Miller's still there.
So he still has him. They still have, I guess, both Fournette and Ronald Jones in the backfield, right?
Well, no, I think they declined to sign Ronald Jones, I believe.
Okay, so they got Fournette and somebody else. And then it's just, it's Julio, if you're healthy, we need you. You can be the number 2 until Godwin comes back. And, they're just going to spread the ball around. And maybe with Todd, and then you have to think about the Todd Bowles factor and that defense re-upping. And, they might start have to win some games like 20 to 17 and, 17-14 and shit like that, where it's just the defense stands up and the Bucs score enough points until they can start to gel at the end and they make a run like they did 2 years ago in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I agree completely. But we mentioned Chris Carson, unfortunately had to retire due to neck injury last season. That ended his season very early and unfortunately his career. Notre Dame product, really good running back.
Whoa.
Notre Dame
started at Notre Dame. Did not finish there.
Okay. Well, I know him from Notre Dame. I thought you would be excited. I thought you would be happy about this. I thought you'd be like, wow,
no,
that's really giving a Notre Dame player his props for once.
I thought he was Michigan. No,
you're
thinking of what's his name on the Seahawks. Not Rashad Penny. Fuck.
I swear.
CJ Procise.
Oh, maybe. That's very possible. That is very possible.
No, Carson's Oklahoma State.
Okay, never mind. scratch that. I was completely fucking wrong.
You're thinking of CJ Procise.
Yeah. God damn it. Why they have to have two running backs with the first letter C in their name? Anyway.
Well, it's also that they were always injured, and then when they weren't, they were showing.
And they were always
like
rotating with each other.
Yeah.
But either way, Carson was a very good running back. He just couldn't. Unfortunately, he's one of those guys in the NFL that just couldn't stay healthy.
Had a 5-year pop, and it'll be one of those guys in 10 years. You're like, oh, I remember Chris Carson. He was fun.
You'll get that random tweet once in a while. It says Chris Carson was a beast in his prime.
It's like Jamal Anderson. It's like Jamal Anderson for my age group. Like, if it wasn't for the injuries, Jamal Anderson would have been a Hall of Famer. He was that good on those Falcons teams. He was a stud. You know what I mean? But Garrison Hurst, another one like that. I was watching something the other day about Ricky Waters and should he be a Hall of Famer? And considering the impact he had, and he was in there was on. I don't
know if I could put him in the Hall of Fame.
He's definitely like. It's tough. Like he'd probably have to be a Veterans Committee vote, but it's he's at least in the top 15 or top 20 all-time rushing yards, I believe.
I haven't looked in a while.
But he's ahead of people that there are in the Hall of Fame. I know that much for a fact.
Yeah, but it's not just rushing yards now. Come on.
No, well, with receiving yards too. He was a great pass catcher.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was great. No one makes it to the NFL and is like a terrible football player.
The thing is he was on a 49ers team that had a bunch of other options. And then he went to the Eagles and was supposed to be it, and then just got into arguments of railroads, and then it was just the Eagles. Those Eagles teams weren't great.
Okay, this podcast isn't about Ricky Waters' Hall of Fame case. Let's talk
about surprised with what I'm saying. That I was like, you know what? Maybe he has he does have an outside excuse, but just one of those things. He got lost in the shuffle.
See, anyway, for the modern day Seahawks, without Russell Wilson, this is a team that's clearly on the decline. Who knows if they re-sign DK Metcalf at some point. And there's a lot of question marks around the future of this organization. And when you're looking at Geno Smith and Drew Lock as your quarterback options, things ain't looking too good. So this is just another blow to that team's any type of hopes of at least putting up a fight in the NFL. Before we start recording, Timmy, you said that this is pretty much Seattle just saying, like, listen, this is just...
It's the most telling. It's the most telling of it. It's and here's the next question is, do they go complete rebuild? Because if they do, I can't see Pete Carroll hanging around.
I'm surprised Pete Carroll is still around. I'm waiting for that retirement conference.
Or is it that, hey, we're going to take 1 year to shit the bed. We'll maybe draft a QB next year, sign another free agent that can play for a year while the guy gets his feet under his legs, and we just build up the defense. They still have the receivers in Lockett and Metcalf. They drafted the kid out of Michigan State, Kenneth Walker. They still got Alex Collins, the line, so it's not a team that's terrible. It's not like they need to fix 7 million holes, but I could see them kind of looking at the Golden State way, because I think Kerr and what's his name are friends, and being like, hey, let's take that 1 year to kind of realign, come back and have a younger QB, and that's how you win in this league. That's a big component to winning, is a QB on a rookie contract that can really help you, or other skill players, and maybe that's the way they look at it. But I guess right now, like you said, maybe the Carson thing isn't that telling because he was going to retire anyway. But if come the middle of the season, if you start to hear DK rumors, then I think you'll know, hey, they think that this is time to just fully blow it up, and Pete Carroll might be piecing out somewhere else.
If you're the Seahawks, do you draft Bryce Young or CJ Stroud? If you're completely tanking and you're trying to land a franchise,
are those the top two guys?
I'm looking at 24/7 Sports, and that's their mock draft is number 1, CJ Stroud, number 2, Will Anderson, number 3, Bryce Young.
Will Anderson. fuck is
Yeah,
Will Anderson?
that linebacker for
Oh,
Alabama.
oh, oh! I'm thinking you meant quarterback.
Yeah. No, I'm just those are the top. Stroud and Young are the top two quarterbacks. It looks like coming up in this year's well, not even this year's, next year's draft. And if you're Seattle, you're desperately needing quarterback. You mentioned DK Metcalf and Kenneth Walker, so you got some position talent, skill position talent. Why wouldn't I try and land a Bryce Young who's won a national title and has been in big moments, or a CJ Stroud who has shown flashes of real pro development, but you're more hesitant on Ohio State quarterbacks than I am.
Yeah, I take Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. I just look at RIP, and not to speak ill of the dead, but look at how badly Haskins turned out before his untimely death. None
Yeah.
of those guys that won the 2014 that were quarterbacks were in that 2014-15 season when they beat Oregon in the championship game. None of them panned out to be shit. Justin Fields still yet to, obviously still plenty of leeway. He was on a sinking ship last year, but didn't look good. I think it's a system, and they're system QBs, and they know how they have their 5 to 10 yard reads, and it's real boom, 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 quick in and out. And they are able to pick apart these teams because they have the superior athletes in the Big Ten. And from the way it looks, is these guys don't know how to think on their own or read on their own outside of what the system tells them to do. Similar to a run and shoot like Timmy Chang back in the day, or Colt Brennan, another RIP,
Yeah.
or all these other guys that ran the run and shoot over the years, Rex Grossman, Danny Warfel. It was all based on systematic reads, as opposed to like Peyton in a pro offense, or stuff like that. And you see it firsthand with Mitch Trubisky. He played in a system, and that was a similar to, not the exact same as Ohio State, but like something similar-esque, where it was all quick hits and stuff of that nature that you
Moving
would
him out of the
do.
pocket and
Right.
trying to get him
And it's why
more
Brian
mobile.
Kelly's never developed one, because his system's similar. And it's, and you look at these guys that have been very successful, and they're guys that have played in some sort of style of pro offense. Alabama runs to some has some semblance of a pro offense with Bill O'Brien as their offensive coordinator. Everyone like, what about Tua? Well, Tua's had a different offensive coordinator every fucking year he's been in Miami. Like, give him a goddamn break. They mentioned their line sucks. So
Most accurate quarterback in the league.
yeah. So, let's calm down on the Tua hate, because 3 years ago, everyone was so hard for him. And now it's just, everyone just wants to give up so quick. And it's just, so personally, Bryce Young might be another one of those guys if it's the too small bill, but he just seems like he's a gamer. And, listen, if Jalen Hurts is getting a shot in this league, I think Bryce Young definitely should, because he's got a better arm, and I think he plays the position better.
For sure. I can't argue. I can't argue with that. Ohio State has a sketchy history of their quarterbacks going pro. And looking at Bryce Young, his resume is there, his physical talents are there, and getting coached by the greatest college football coach of all time, it's only going to help you mature and be a leader.
With a coordinator that knows what the league wants.
Exactly. But we got to move on to another quarterback. Trey Lance, officially QB1 of the San Francisco 49ers. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, two faces of the 49ers organization, announced today. And so now it's kind of official that the San Francisco is saying, hey, if you want Jimmy G, come and get him. He's up for sale. And we're probably going to be willing to lowball and just get him out of here and just move on from this situation whenever we can. And it's not surprising. It just sucks because I feel like Jimmy G is just a victim of circumstance, because no other quarterback, if you led your team to an NFC championship game 2 out of the last 3 years, that you would be in this situation. But unfortunately, he's a victim of circumstance in that Trey Lance just happened to be coming up in the draft at this point. Garoppolo himself has been dealing with injury, and it's just kind of somehow coalesced in this stew of shit. And he unfortunately has to find a new home. whether maybe that's Minnesota, and Minnesota decides Kirk Cousins isn't the guy. I'm just rattling off teams in the top off the top of my head, but I just think it's going to be either Jimmy G's going to be either a backup permanent backup quarterback like Ryan Fitzpatrick, or somehow he revitalizes his career wherever he goes next.
I just think why would you show your hand like this and cut down the trade value you could have? Now, I'm not saying people have been lining up at the door, but there's franchises out there that could use him that, are maybe a quarterback away from, like, the Steelers could probably really use him. The Saints could probably really use him. Even the Seahawks, if they wanted to, even though they won't trade in the division, if they could somehow figure it out, could probably really use him.
Those are three really good spots. I didn't think of those right off the top of my head. So.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
New York, Jimmy. Oh my God, an Italian being quarterback of the New York Football Giants would be the most New York thing of all time.
Or even the Eagles, Howie just being like, "Hey, let's just go get him just in case Jalen can't stay healthy."
I don't know if I'm on board with that. I don't know. I think it's just another signal from Howie to be like, "Here, Jalen, better figure it out because we got another guy waiting in the wings," and then just a Carson Wentz situation all over again.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm just saying, maybe next year at this time they don't get rid of him, and he's a free agent, right?
Yeah.
And they just think, I don't know. It's just,
if the Eagles have that
I'm just
leverage,
not sold. I'm just not sold on it. Like I just
on Jalen.
I just still am not.
All right, we'll save this for beginning of the season because I can't do is Jalen the guy is Jalen the guy segments tonight. I just can't do it.
It's just more like, I really hope he's learned how to stay in the pocket and throw people open. That's all I hope.
We'll have that conversation at the beginning of the season on a separate podcast episode when I have the energy for it. But for now, San Francisco.
They're in, like you said, Minnesota's another one. Yeah. I'm trying to think that who else that would be out there that could be, could possibly challenge. So would need.
Do you think Green Bay?
No.
The only reason I
say
no,
they're gonna give Jordan Love. Jordan Love basically is gonna get all of the preseason, and if they don't like it, then maybe they go and make that trade. But
that's I would only see
Cameron Poe straight up to training camp today. So little Nick Cage reference there for you folks. If you don't know who Cameron Poe is, go watch Con Air.
It was great. I loved every minute of it. I was rewatching that video. It was awesome. I fucking love Rodgers.
Oh my God. It literally, he does look like him when he gets off the bus and he's just like, and he's making that face and his hair is blowing in the wind. He goes,
"It's awesome hair. Like, I want that hair."
Oh, dude, I would you think kidding me? Like, I wish I could still grow my hair out like that. Fucking receding hairline. Don't get old.
I'll try not to. I'll take note.
But yeah. So I don't know. I think they showed their hands. I think Lynch is usually way smarter than this, so it's a very big surprise that he went and did it. That said, they better fucking hope Trey Lance is ready. They really better hope Trey Lance is ready, because if not, this is about to blow up real quick in Shanahan's face. And John Lynch's, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in that kid coming out and lighting it up compared to what we saw last year. So they better hope that, they've been secretly running him through the drills in the lab over all winter and that he's like ready to go, because if he comes out and even throws one dud, there's going to be a lot of people. What with Trey's performance? Did you still wish you had Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah. The first handful of games in the season, he could light the world on fire just because they're playing bad defenses at Chicago, at home.
Right.
Against
But
Seattle.
imagine if he.
Well, don't disconnect. What happened? What'd you say? You cut out.
Imagine if he shits the bed against one of those teams.
Oh, that's true. That's also a good counterpoint to that. Yeah. They will. San Francisco will hear it 24/7 on all the first take, undisputeds.
All the guys calling in now, being like, I'm all for it. This is why we drafted Trey, blah, blah, blah. And it's time to move on for Jimmy. He never got us to the promised land. Oh, well, he did. And then your defensive back dropped a surefire interception. And then your defense cost them the one where you were up in the championship. Mind you, the same defensive back the Eagles just signed. They're going to be the same people calling in October being like, we never should have got rid of Jimmy. This is what I was saying back in August.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I know we were going to do a helmets ranking segment, but I am exhausted and I want to go to bed. And I think there's supposed to be more helmets coming out soon, hopefully.
We'll do that with the uniforms then. This one with the NFL uniforms or something in one sweep.
We're saving that for an August, like gearing up for preseason, maybe like towards the beginning of the regular season podcast episode. So thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be much appreciated. We got clips, us saying very dumb things, like me saying that Trae Young is a left-handed Mike Conley. Very dumb things were said on this podcast in its early stages. Did get the Luka Garza prediction right though, which is very funny.
What?
You said Luka Garza was a doofus. Was like he was what did you say exactly? You said Luka Garza is a doofus that looks like he doesn't know how to control his body. And this is like towards the tail end of his Iowa career, so he's averaging like 25 per game. And you said he's gonna have no NBA future. And we were pretty much right on that. He's averaged like 2 points per game whenever he's gotten in.
And I also called that Iowa would lose in the first round this year.
And we did say UNC would upset Baylor too.
Yeah, we've had some good calls.
We've had some good calls, had some bad calls. I got a lot of heat for the Rudy Gobert take, which I don't understand why.
For what? But people then people loved my Suggs, the Minnesota talk.
Yes, people, but that was more divisive. On TikTok, that got 22K views. I was impressed. On Instagram, everyone was like, it was the classic doofuses that like they don't counter your point with basketball points. So they're like, oh, this is white people that don't understand basketball. And then meanwhile, they're a white person commenting in the comment section. It's like, okay, so I'm just right there.
They were just listening because they're cancel culture, trying to find a way to say that we should be shut down.
Or they're just like looking for ways to prove that they know more about basketball than I do, which sure, go ahead if you want.
Or they just sit in their mama's basement with no friends, just looking to start Twitter beefs because they got nothing better to do.
No, people were like, who doesn't care about rebounding anymore and all this type of stuff.
That's not the point. Our point is that he gets exposed on the defensive end every year come playoffs.
Dude, this is gonna be a whole nother podcast. I don't want to get you riled up. You gotta go. You're gonna have heart issues thinking about Rudy Gobert.
Oh yeah, shit.
But anyway, you can still follow us on social media for all those fun clips and argue with people in the comment section if that is your national pastime. So you can do that. So
you can defend us.
Yeah, seriously.
If you're truly our friend.
That would be nice. Someone other than my mother defending me. That would be nice. That would just be nice. Having some real fans would be great.
Your brother texted me and I forgot to respond. I should probably do that now.
Probably. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, new episodes weekly. Be sure to like, comment, follow, unsubscribe, resubscribe. It helps us out. So thank you all for tuning in. And we are happy to give you our very dumb takes.